You sold this property for $180,000 to an FHA buyer, okay? The FHA appraisal comes in at $173,000. You sold it for $180,000, the appraisal comes in at $173,000. This deal's getting ready to fall apart, okay? Now granted, the seller could lower his price to $173,000 and it would all work out. But the seller in this market says, I'm not gonna lower my price. I feel like I can sell it for $180,000, I'm not gonna lower my price. Well, here's the deal. If this deal falls apart, you better not try to sell it to another FHA buyer for the next 6 months. I don't know if 6 months is still the number. Talk to your lenders about this in the field. But what will happen is that appraisal will attach to that property. And so for the next however many months, that is the appraisal. Don't try to sell it to an FHA buyer for over $173,000. Sell it to a conventional buyer, okay, that's a different appraisal. Sell it to a cash buyer, that's fine. But you might as well not try to sell it to an FHA buyer because that's going to attach to it for a certain period of time.
What is it?
FHA, Federal Housing Administration, it's a home to support home, it's a loan to support home ownership backed by the federal government. Okay, again, chapter 14, 15 finance. We'll get to that. Okay, good question. Good question.
FHA and VA do the same, since VA usually has a separate appraisal too. Do you not interchange?
I can't remember if it applies to VA as well. I'd have to check with a lender about that, but I can. I'll check it right with Davis and find out if that's the case. And I'll actually, if you'll remind me, I'll find out what that length of time is as well. Okay, is it still 6 months? Let's see, manufactured home. I don't want to beat you up too much about this, but I want you to notice in this class as you're reading contracts, how many times the concept of a fuel tank comes up. Fuel tanks, you probably don't even think about them as you're taking these classes, but think about all the issues that can go on with a fuel tank. First of all, someone may have an old, unused, underground storage tank. Well, what's material about that? What if it had fuel oil and it's rusted, corroded, and leaking into the soil? Now you have a contamination issue. What if it's much more simple? What you're more likely to see is this. Someone has a propane tank. You know, why is this an issue from selling a property? Do you know what the issue is? Say again?
Propane's volatile, but.
Well, not even from a danger standpoint.
Well, what if it's used for any of the items?
You're on the right trail.
Paid for it?
Say again?
Is it paid for?
Is it paid for? Who owns it? Who owns it? Bless you. Let me remind you, your contract, your fixtures provision basically has this thing. The following items, if any, and if owned by the seller. What if the fuel tank is not owned by the seller? Can the seller sell it if he doesn't own it? No, it might be owned by a company who leases it to the seller, and when they quit paying that lease, they're going to take the fuel tank away. That's important information to know if you run your gas logs, your stove off of this, and one day you go to turn it on, there's no fuel there for you. So this prevents squabbles. Let's deal with it right now. Your fuel tank, do you own it? Does the company lease it to you? Let's make the buyer aware so they know what to do and how to have that set up, okay? Seller's duties, okay. Let me talk to you real quickly about the seller's duties, and then I'm going to say a couple of things specific. The seller's duties. Seller, act in good faith. Make your house available for showing. Keep it reasonably clean. Does this sound like a good faith effort by the seller? And then there'll be some specific things that a seller has to do. We haven't talked about these yet, but trust me. If the house was built before 1978, have y'all watched my video on, do you remember if the house was built before 78, lead-based paint? They're going to have to, the seller has to provide a lead-based paint disclosure. To be honest with you, you're going to provide it, they're going to fill it out, okay? Do you know whether there's lead in lead-based paint in your house, okay? They should do that. And then you've already mentioned this, although I still haven't lectured on it yet, the residential property disclosure statement. What you're going to find out is that's going to be all sellers in North Carolina have to provide that with modest exceptions, mainly new homes and foreclosures. So in other words, seller, what are your duties? Fill out forms that I give you so that you can make them available for the buyers according to state law. Okay? Seller, we expect these things of you. The key words there were, watch out for these forms, as I'll talk about it later. Lead-based paint, residential property disclosure statement, and the MOG, the mineral oil and gas rights disclosure. Okay? More seller duties, more seller duties. What's that next one? Oh, it does ask about a short sale about halfway down on the following page. And let me remind you this. Do you remember materiality? The fact that your seller is behind to the bank, is that material? No. But the minute that you notice that it's a short sale, because they're going to have to sell it for less than what they owe, in that case, that's a material fact. And what if the seller declares, has a foreclosure action against him? Foreclosures are always a material fact as well, because there might be a time element that you're going to have to deal with, okay? Home inspections, you can deal with that in the field. Home inspections, you know, if you were a seller in today's market, this has nothing to do with the test. If you were a seller in today's market, would you get a pre-home inspection, and why or why not? Who wants to take this on? Karen? Not appraisal, but a home inspection. Is your answer still the same? Is your answer still the same? The question is, as a seller, now remember, we're in the listing agreement, right? And so we're talking to the seller. Would you like to have a pre-home inspection done? Erica says no. What's your defense? Seller.
Because the buyer will get one and I'm not going to spend the money for it.
You're getting that a lot today, where the sellers say, you know what, the buyer's going to do one. The market favors sellers today, so why should I do a pre-inspection? I will react rather than pre-act on that. I will tell you that home inspections became a really valuable commodity when we were coming out of the meltdown, because the buyers were in charge. And so what happened is that a lot of sellers would make sure their house was turnkey, ready to go, because they knew that that would set them out front. And even in this area, you could actually get close to retail price even after the meltdown if your house was turnkey, ready to go, immaculate, pre-inspections and all that. So at that time, a lot of sellers were opting to do it, to make it a better, not a better deal, but a better bargaining position for both the buyer and themselves. Okay, so anyway, we're not requiring the seller to do this. We're asking the seller, would you like to have a pre-home inspection done? And they may ask, what are the pros and the cons? Well, the pros are, if you know what's wrong with the house, you can go ahead and fix it, and then you can tell the buyers, this is what we've done in preparation for selling the house. You'll find that that's always market dependent. Okay, not really fantastic. And then you get into photographs. I can talk to you a lot about photographs, but be really careful in the field about photographs. Don't use other people's proprietary information. If you take a listing that someone previously had and they paid for pictures, they own the rights to those pictures. You do not. Okay, so be careful before you co-opt someone else's property on that. And also, just be judicious about the pictures that you take. Yeah.
Hire a professional.
Make sure you hire a professional, of which Lauren might be one. And so if you need her business cards a little bit later, she has a good eye and she can help you with those pictures as well. I will tell you today, photographs is not a laughing matter. I will love it when you get into the MLS and you get a chance to see what other agents have done. I have seen some agents who will just go to the tax records, and they will take a small, grainy photo with a number on it. You can tell they got it from the tax records, and that's what they put into the MLS. That agent should be fired, okay? I mean, that is not helping anybody market the house. If we know that 93% of plus of people are looking online, why not give an extraordinary picture? Spend money up front to help market the property. It's for your client. What are you going to say, Constance?
Do a lot of the firms here have their own photographers, or just, I realize it's a personal choice. You go out, you're going to pay it as the
I will tell you what
agent.
I'll tell you what this firm does. Go actually has a relationship with a photographer and an appraiser for measuring the house and photographing the house, and we actually provide it to the agents as a benefit. When you take a listing, we do this. We provide it to the agents as a benefit, but it also protects us. The reason is we know it's professionally measured, so we don't have to worry about that being overly incorrect. And the photos, we know are going to come out top quality, so that we don't have to worry about somebody getting cheap and putting a cheap picture in there. A lot of firms, they probably don't have in-house, but they probably have third-party relationships that they can get this done efficiently. Yeah, it's that important to them.
Yeah.
Since you plugged Lauren, my husband does burial photography and videography, so like amenities, pools, clubhouses, parks, things like that. And I have.
Oh my goodness, she warmed up to it. She went up to it.
I have no business cards. I'm ready to go. Right.
We're gonna look like NASCAR in here before too long. We're gonna have patches on our stuff.
We
I'm
can
a,
partner together on the ground and.
you can do, there you go, soil and airs. We got it. Can anybody take a picture of mineral rights and we'll have the whole thing? Yes, sir.
Along those same lines, my husband does the virtual 3D tours of properties, so.
These bills are.
Apparently we do. I had no idea. We're gonna have to have an extra meeting afterwards, a cocktail hour. You guys are sponsoring it, by the way. You got it right that time. Okay. All right, I started, so, let's continue. Oh, by the way, now, notice in the paragraph that we get to the dual agency language. Have you already read the dual agency language? I'm looking at you right now to shake your head yes, because I assigned it to you about a week ago, all right? So remember the way I said the best way to study dual agency is to read this language because it's really, really well written. Can I tell a little story about agents in the field? And remember, I want you to be better. I want you to be better, okay? We have talked about dual agency. What we've not talked a lot about in this class is filling out the forms. I want you to look at provision. What's this provision right over here? 17, E and F. Or is it? There's no F, just 17. Oh, I'm sorry, D and E. 17, D and E. Yes. Remember me, at some point in the field, when you get your first listing agreement, will you please fill out this paragraph? And by the way, the form I'm showing you is a generation old. The newer form might be numbered slightly different, but the wording is all very, very similar. When you're filling out that section right there, is everybody looking at 17D and E? What it's asking you in 17D is, hey seller, are you willing to accept dual agency if it comes up? Well, what does that mean? Well, if a buyer, a buyer agent from our firm brings a buyer, then we technically represent both of you, and we would be more of a middleman facilitator in this particular case. And the seller said, okay, I just want buyers. So I want you to notice those first two boxes right there. If the seller initials the first one, he's basically saying that he's okay with dual agency. If he initials the second one, he says he wants exclusive representation. Okay? I bet you that most sellers will initial the first one. Most sellers are going to be okay with dual agency. Now remember, you have to have informed consent, but having said that, most sellers will probably give you that. Then I want you to look at E. What does E talk about? Designated agency. Well, here's what I don't understand. A lot of times I see agents that they will have the seller initial dual, but they didn't initial designated agency. And I'm like, well, you would think that if they were okay with dual agency, that they would be ecstatic about designated agency, right? Because in designated agency, you get the full menu of services. So I don't know why sometimes they do this one and not that one. It's legitimate. It's legitimate. The most common that I should see is, yes, dual agency is okay, and hey, if dual agency comes up, designated agency will be fine as well. That's the most common one I see. But then, I also see this, and you tell me why this cannot be the case. Sometimes I see where the seller wants exclusive agency and designated agency. Why can they not do that? In your immense experience in real estate, your 2.5 weeks, how can you figure out something that my agents who've been doing this for 28 years can't figure out? Why can you not have exclusive and designated? That is perfectly said. That was perfectly said. Designated agency is a type of dual agency. Matter of fact, if they read the contract closely, it would tell them that this is not a possibility, not in those terms, but it does. Now, watch this. Sometimes I get some that look like this. They didn't accept dual or exclusive, but they accepted designated agency. Why is that not a possibility? Because the same answer, isn't it? Designated agency is a type. You can't have this without that. And sometimes, watch this for you, tell me what you think about this.
Will this scenario make this contract void?
What it does is it makes it so that you don't have informed consent, okay? It's not a void contract at this point. And sometimes it doesn't, if dual agency doesn't come up, it's not an issue at all. But I literally have to send this back to an agent and say, if dual agency comes up, you might not have the right to get paid in this particular transaction because you don't have a legitimate agency position, okay? Morgan, sometimes I see this. Let's just check them off, just in case. Why do you think that I see clients sometimes check that?
They're not reading.
They didn't explain it because they're getting it signed how? DocuSign, and they leave these boxes fillable, and people are not reading it, so they're just, everything that can be filled out, bam, 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 bam. And they put themselves in a position here that's just not applied. You can't be exclusive to what designated, okay? Yeah.
Is there any situation where somebody would agree to dual agency but not want designated?
Some firms have a policy that they don't allow designated agency, okay? And they, in those particular cases, they just basically say, look guys, if dual agency comes up, we're all keeping our mouths shut, okay? And that way we don't have to worry about one side or the other saying that this one got better service than this. We're Switzerland, we're neutral at
So
that.
that's a firm policy, but
That-
in
oftentimes it
terms
is.
of a buyer, seller, an individual, they would always want designated, right?
That's the logical thing that I would think, that given the choice, that the buyer or seller would be better off with designated agency than dual if the firm has the ability to offer.
So in the case where you said that the firms doesn't allow designated,
Yeah.
that means everybody in the firm is forced to follow those firms.
That's correct. Yeah, and you see it a lot today with these teams that are being created within firms. And so I have a team, and I do all the listings, but I have a buyer agent, okay? And so in this particular situation, we share so much information that if dual agency came up, there's no way that I do designated agency because she has the ability to get insider information and I have the ability to get insider information. And you remember the rule about designated agency? You can't practice it if you have prior confidential information, not to mention the broker charge rule. Okay?
Yes.
Congratulations, you are almost finished with your first agency agreement. If you look down at the bottom, you will see obviously that there is a place for the parties to sign. And trust me on this, guys, if there are two people on this contract, husband and wife, please get both of their signatures or it is not valid. Okay? And then there's a space for the agent to sign. Now I want to tell you this about the agent, okay? You have a general agency relationship with your firm. Can you sign this agency agreement for your firm? You absolutely can. Do you need your broker charges permission? Not really. You have an agency agreement that says go out and get listings, okay? So you sign for the firm, and then you put your license number on there. Why do you put your license number on there?
Because it's a rule.
Because it's a rule. Because it's a rule. You guys have got to get out of thinking, okay? If there is a rule, there is no need to think. Just say it's a rule. That's why we have to put it out there. It must have your license number. That is a rule by the Real Estate Commission, okay? You have finished your listing agreement. Take your time on these in the field. Now listen, I'm naive. When I started this business, our listing agreement was maybe 3 or 4 pages long. Our offer to purchase contract was only 2 pages long. We could know them meticulously. I knew almost every word in the agreement. I understand today they're 8, 10 pages long. It takes longer. Study your forms. It makes you look so much more professional when you can explain this stuff. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, with regard to when you're initially signing, the initials have to be the same, right? I remember when I was signing, I said, use your middle initial or your initial. You have to use the same signature throughout the contract, right?
It might be a thing. It might be a dotted requirement or something like that. A DigiSign. Somebody has a requirement like that. Typically, what it does is you adopt something as yours. So it would be difficult for it to be anything other than that. There's a lot of places on there. The initials are going to be highly critical if there's a change. Okay?
Right, it's like, it has to be consistent.
That's right. So we change something in there. Both parties to the contract need to initial the
But you
change.
have to initial it the same way you've already initialed it throughout the article. Say you don't typically use your middle name or middle initial.
I don't know that it's going to be a big deal. It sounds like it might be a function of the system that would make it do that. Everything must, I'll give you an example on this. We have a signature page on the back page. Some people use their initials as their signature. That's completely legally fine, as long as it can be tracked back. Okay, did we talk about the following things? Agency disclosure, list price, brokerage fees, authority to cooperate, brokerage duties, seller's duties, how's the earnest money going to be handled, we acknowledge the agency relationship, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not telling you not to read these notes. I'm telling you we covered these as we were going over the form. You okay with that? Ah, man, do we really have to talk about this? Yeah, we got to talk about this. Okay, let me remind you where we are. I know sometimes it seems like starts and stops, starts and stops. But having said that, we're now talking about a transaction cycle. You're working with the seller. You just did the listing agreement. If you go back before the listing agreement, you obviously had already done the working with real estate agents brochure, right? So working real estate agents brochure, listing agreement. Now, as a listing agent, you're going to be responsible for measuring the home and measuring it according to real estate commission rules. Actually, let's go ahead and break right now because I've heard me do this lecture and it's long. So let's go ahead and break right